And I start with a yawn and a cough. This is great. All right. Well, hello and welcome. This is our first real test episode. So far, it's the untitled, undecided bookcast. We have no idea what the title is going to be, but I'm sure we're going to change it eventually. My name is Keith Bonaire. My daughter and I, Dana, who is also here.
Hello.
Uh, Both of us love to read, always have. I've always loved to read ever since I was little. I have an aunt that introduced me to some mystery novels, mostly Agatha Christie and things like the Hardy Boys, and I fell in love with those, and I came to discover at a young age things like Ellery Queen's Mystery Magazine, and there was a couple of others that were out there that I can't remember right now. But I basically started reading at an early age. And when I first got married, I read the entire series of The Lord of the Rings. And I was reading that series, believe it or not, when Dana was born. So I think that might have started to influence her, right out the oven. So
Definitely.
that's basically my history. I mostly like to read sci-fi and fantasy books now, but I've always loved history and mystery, mostly mystery, but I love history stuff as well. I have a wide variety of things that I enjoy when it comes to reading. I like some horror novels. I'm finally reading my first Stephen King book right now, but anyway, I can talk all night. I like to read. I'm a slow reader. Sometimes I have to read a chapter 3 times before I understand what went on. But anyway, that's my story. Dana?
Yeah, my name's Dana. I've been reading pretty much since I was a kid. My mom and dad both have loved to read. So, um, I've always loved I've always loved all kinds of books. I As a kid, I read a lot of Nancy Drew and Goosebumps. And then the older I got, the more into science fiction and fantasy I got into. So, but I'm open minded. I'll read, I've read Stephen King. Um, in middle school, I read The Lord of the Rings. Um, and I grew up with Harry Potter. That was my favorite series for the longest time. And it still holds a special place in my heart. But, you know, I, um, so yeah.
Yeah, I think we've both expanded and started to branch out beyond things we normally thought we would have read.
Definitely.
Yeah, I think it just happens over time. But so anyway, we're both avid video gamers. I stream. I have a streaming channel on Twitch that I normally stream several video games on. But and Dana plays a bunch of games as well.
Oh, yes.
Um, I think the mutual passionate series that I would have to tie us both in together would probably be Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit. Uh,
Yeah.
Even though I can't specifically say it's my absolute favorite, it definitely would be in a fight for number one with something else. I have too many things that I like, but
I know it's the same. I have so many that I love that it's really hard to pick a favorite.
aside from that, the book we're gonna review, we're gonna start tonight is Storm. Oh, I'm sorry, that's your part.
It's
I'm
we're
sorry.
tonight. Well, we're gonna cover Stormfront by Jim Butcher, a novel of the Dresden Files.
We're not covering the entire book because I can't read as fast as Dana.
Yeah, just the first 4 chapters.
Yeah, I'm kind of lame. So we're covering the first 4 chapters today. But interestingly, there is some recent news. I went to Jim Butcher's website earlier today, and I almost did the fangirl screech. because I realized they have an announcement out there that he's got a new book with stories from the Dresden Files called Briefcases that's going to be released on June 8th. June 5th. Dang, I can't even type correctly. I put the 8th and it's the 5th. Coming out on June 5th, 2018. It's basically, according to this, it's previously published stories that they have released. I guess it's been in other pieces and other small releases. It might have been some of the comic books that they've done as well. It's going to include Curses, um, Wizardry. I can't even spoke. From the Dresden Files RPG. There's an RPG.
Serious?
Oh, I didn't know. Apparently, there's an RPG. Even Hand, B is for Bigfoot. So there's a series of short stories all centered around Harry Dresden in this book. So apparently, it will also include a small novella. How you say that, Dana?
Novella.
Novella. Thanks, you. A small novella called Zude. And so that's coming out, like I said, June 5th. So stay tuned and get to the bookstore and buy that one because I'm sure it's going to be excellent. And this year, apparently, Jim Butcher is going to be at several cons that he's appearing at. Confusion in Detroit, Michigan, Superstars Writing Seminar in Colorado Springs, Colorado, Pensacon in Pensacola, Florida, Pikes Peak Writers Conference in Colorado Springs, Colorado, and Emerald City Comic Con in Seattle, Washington. Actually, Confusion has already finished. Uh, that was January 18th through the 21st. The Superstars Writing Seminar is actually going on right now. That was January 1st through February. It ended today, the 3rd. So the next one is Pensacon in Florida, the 23rd of February to the 26th. And then April and March are the other two. So he is definitely busy, even though he isn't working on book 17 yet for the Dresden Files. I'm sure he'll get to it eventually. If you remember right, now Dana's probably aware of this. I'm not sure. It depends on how much research you've done on Jim Butcher. He originally started this concept of a 23 novel series that his college professor told him wasn't going to work and he wouldn't make any money at it. So he's laughing to this day at that. And that's just a very generalized. There's a long story behind all of that. You go on YouTube and look it up. He elaborates on that very, very well. But it's supposed to be 23 novels covering Harry Dresden, and I think he's released 16 so far, 15 or 16. So the next one, I don't know when it's going to come out, but still waiting on it. I personally have read the first two. I started on the third one, but I'm a person, I happen to read 8 books at one time, which is why it takes me forever to complete a book. But I have read the first two in their entirety already. So we're going to cover the first book, Stormfront, first 4 chapters tonight. So, Dana, you want to get started with chapter 1?
Okay. Let's see. So we're just gonna go over what we found interesting in that chapter.
Yeah, start out with the chapters about, I mean, chapter 1 is extremely short. Uh-oh, you dropped? Oh, no.
No, I'm here. I'm here. Okay. Well, I do love the way it starts. With the mailman and how and he just doesn't it gives you an idea of what people might think of Harry because he laughs at the name and of his office. Like, are you really a wizard?
I know that was funny, and the thing is, the thing about that is, it's like it's a new mailman. This is the first time because he recognized that it was a new mailman because he heard a different footstep. That's how in touch with the surroundings he seems to be. So he instantly recognized it was a new mailman. So he kind of took a deep breath, and when he saw that the guy didn't push the letter through the door, he knew it was going to be a certified letter, and any certified letters he gets are bad. So you really get in just a few short words a good general idea of how screwed up Harry really kind of is in a general term. You know what I mean? Drop again?
No, I was sorry. I got distracted. I was reading a little bit of it, even though I just read it the other day. Um, no, I love Harry. I do. You know, um, I love his name, Harry Blackstone Copperfield Dresden.
I know he's got a
Look,
long name. I know.
that's a long freaking name. But he was named after Harry Houdini, right? That's what I think.
I don't remember them getting into that in the first couple of chapters. If they did, I've forgotten that, and I didn't write that down. I actually don't have any notes. I'm going off of pure memory, so this is going to
Yeah,
be kind of wicked. Um,
yeah.
no, go ahead.
No, I think it's covered. No, I think that was actually covered in book two. So I'm getting ahead of myself, definitely. But um, I just love his name. I think his name is very interesting.
It is, but what I like about the first few pieces or first few couple of pages in chapter one, like I said, isn't very long. You get a real sense of the kind of person Harry is, just because he can tell it's a new mailman coming up to the door. When the guy didn't put the letter or the mail through the letterbox, he knew it was a certified letter. He knew it wasn't going to be good news. Probably going to be coming from his landlord more than likely because he's behind on his rent as always. And they kind of just
Yep.
snowball into chapter one, and you realize he doesn't make a lot of money being a wizard. People kind of
Think of him as a joke
yeah, they think of him as a joke. They don't really take him seriously.
or like a party favor because they want it's obvious he must get calls for love potions and birthday parties.
I think it
But
sounds like he gets a lot of crank calls as well. And really
yeah.
early on, too, they talk about his aversion to electronic devices, you know?
Oh, yes, and I love that because he did they don't talk about it in the first four chapters really, but he has a rinky-dink vehicle just because technology does not work around him hardly at all. So like elevators are dangerous. So because they crap out on him all the time. So he's always taking the stairs in his building,
Yeah.
which means he's probably very gaunt, very thin person, and you know he probably doesn't get that winded going up and down the stairs.
No, I don't think he doesn't exercise a ton, but you get the idea that he's in okay shape. Yeah, and I
Um,
like the way too in chapter one, after he gets done with the mailman and he's got his letter, um, they go into the stuff about the electronics and that kind of stuff, and then as he's kind of they give you the history about how little he gets paid, or apparently it looks like it's not that he gets paid so little. Oh, they go into talking about Oh, he gives like a history of people and psychopath and
Uh,
science.
and he talks about he talks about his job, like his
Yeah,
jobs that he's had. You know, he tries to be very honest with his work, and it disappoints people, especially people who are looking for your average psychic or whatever.
that's what it is. He's very open and honest. He doesn't pull any punches or have any qualms about what he is, but people just think he's a joke when they see that he's a wizard because he openly advertises it. I mean, the what on his front door, and people are always writing over it and making jokes on it. I mean, even on his sign, it says Harry Dresden, wizard, lost items found, paranormal investigations, consulting advice, reasonable rates, no love potions, endless purses, parties, or other entertainment. So he's right up front. He says, "I'm a wizard, but I don't do all the. I'm not a fake wizard. I'm the real deal." And he's the only one in the phone book. He's listed under wizards. He's the only one there. It's amazing.
And he reads a lot because he has so much downtime. So he reads a lot.
I know. I like the fact that he's got the box that he tosses the paperbacks that he's read into the
Mhm.
box.
And he admits he's very hard on the books that he reads.
Yep.
He also broods a lot. I like that one particular line that's in there. We wizards are terrific at brooding.
Probably so. He seems like he'd be an interesting guy to hang around. I remember a little eccentric. He kind of seems like he would be a cross between Mr. Johnny and Jerry.
Oh yeah.
And I think I would probably get along very, very, very well with him. But just because of that, because I'll never find other friends like those two. It's never going to happen. Never going to happen. But anyway, after he gets through discussing his jobs and all that stuff, you get into the part about a little bit of the electronics because his phone rings.
Oh yeah, and he can already tell this woman is nervous talking to him because she's not, like, is he for real kind of thing. And he has to play it pretty safe if he wants to get a job and get paid.
Yeah, well, I mean, they even go into the conversation when he answers the phone. The way she answers it, she's like, "Is this Harry Dresden, the wizard?" And he said he gets kind of sarcastic. You see that side of the wizard coming out. No, it's Harry Dresden the lizard. That's what he's thinking in his head. But he can't say that.
But you
He
can't say that.
No, because he needs the work, so he has to pretend he's smiling and all that kind of stuff. Kind of grin through his teeth and say, yeah, yeah, yeah. What can I do to help you? He tries to be as sweet as he can
He has to
because
put on the customer voice.
he needs the job. He needs the money. He's already behind on his rent. I mean, he just got the certified letter from his landlord because he's a month behind, and he usually pays everything a month behind. So this lady's calling him, and apparently she's calling because, and she's really nervous. She's kind of iffy about talking to anyone, it seems like, but apparently she's trying to find her husband. Her husband has gone missing. And,
Yep.
and, uh, and the way she says it is, oh, uh, I'm, I'm, I'm not sure. He wanted to know what he can help her with. And she says, I'm not sure. I lost something. I think maybe you can help me. Well, finding lost articles is a specialty. What would I be looking for? And then the nervous pause. This is the kind of people he has to deal with all the time. And she lets him know it's her husband, and it kind of snowballs from there.
And this is another testament to how he is legit about honesty, and he because he's like, ma'am, I'm not really a missing person specialist. Have you talked to the police or a private investigator? And you know, even though he needs this job, he's still trying to actually put her to people who might be better at helping her than he would be.
I know, and then the conversation kind of keeps going from there, and eventually it gets down to the part where he's actually able to get the job by basically telling her he'll listen to her and listen to her problem and see if he could maybe help find her husband, but come down, talk face to face, and if I can't help it, if I feel like I can't help you, I'll find you someone who can, and no charge for that. So he kind of grit his teeth. That's the part where he grits his teeth and kind of has to pretend to smile through it, because even though he really needs the money, he's not going to screw this lady over if he can't help her. He could easily do it and completely take her to the cleaners if he wanted to.
Yep, but he's not a shyster.
No, he will not do that. So he's not going to charge her just so that he can hear if he can help her or not. He's going to call her in. He's not going to charge her his $50 an hour fee for consultation like he normally would, just so he can see if he could possibly help her. And if he can't, he's going to refer her to someone who can.
He's very noble.
Noble people are always poor and destitute.
Yep.
It seems to be even in fictional stories, they always are the last ones with no money, because they're not going to take you to the cleaners.
Nope. He is not gonna pull one over on people.
Nope.
It's just he just can't.
So he sets up an appointment with her roughly about an hour later, and she says she can be there. So he hangs up the phone. Second he hangs up the phone, it rings again. So
And
he
I love
said,
how he
"Go ahead." No,
I love how he jumps. Like he just
but
the phone's
and it's because electronics always go screwy on him, even the telephone. So he's figuring the phone went haywire and he's got to get it replaced again. So
I mean, he doesn't even use automatic pencils.
no, no, and I think he even hesitated to answer it. He was kind of afraid to answer it because he thought it was going to be, like it might shock him or something.
Yeah.
But he does end up answering the phone.
A little apprehensively. And it's Lieutenant Murphy. Lieutenant Murphy
And
on the
I
other end.
and I love the way, and this just goes to show you right from the beginning. Now I know this is meta, because this is, we call it in gaming, we call it meta gaming. I don't know what you would call it in books because I've already read these, but I love the way they introduce Murphy and Harry's relationship to Murphy. Let me see if I can find it real quick. I answered the phone with the same false cheer that I had summoned up for Monica. Husband missing. This is Dresden. May I help you? Harry, I need you at the Madison in the next 10 minutes. Can you be there? The voice on the other end of the line was also a woman's, cool, brisk, and businesslike. This is the part that this right here tells you the future you're going to have in the next few books with these two characters. And I'm going to try to do it in the way Harry would have done it. I hope I do it some justice. Why, Lieutenant Murphy, I gushed, overflowing with saccharin. It's good to hear from you, too. It's been so long. Oh, they're fine, fine. And your family?
Because you can tell he likes to give her a hard time.
Not only that he likes to give her a hard time, that one piece overflowing with saccharin, I don't think he just likes to give her a hard time. Right from the beginning, right there, when I first read that, and I know I had seen the TV series before I read the book, and the TV series is similar to the book, but there's a lot of differences as well. But it's when Murphy calls, every what's the best way to put it? Every sensation, I think, that he could feel all at once, all shoot up to the top of the thermometer, and they're peaked at 100 degrees Fahrenheit. And it just that's what she does to him. It's anger, it's love, it's passion. I think it's everything. It's just like he's on emotional and feeling overload every time Murphy's around.
Yeah,
That's
because
that's my take.
she's kind of well, because he likes her, but he also knows that when she's calling, she's about to get real. Things are about to go down because she's not just making some sweet house call. That means there's something big going down, and he respects her because you can see it later on in the chapter 2 when they meet up.
Oh, he knows she's good at her job, and we'll get into that part, I guess, in a couple of minutes. But for me, it's just the way they introduce the two of them and their relationship. You can get instantly that it's more than just a working relationship. It may not be more than friends, but you get the feeling that it could possibly get there. It's like all of that rushes through my head when I read those first few lines. That's what I get out of reading that. There's some kind of click, and there's a connection there. And I just, for
Yeah, like
some reason, I get that there's a connection. The way he wrote that, I get that instantly.
yeah, like there's some sort of there's a bond. There's a definite bond between the two of them.
Yeah, yeah. His choice of words in describing all that, and get introducing you to that couple and that relationship, you catch that instantly. I love the way this guy writes.
I do too, because you really do get an idea of the kind of person Harry Dresden is, because just the way everything is written, you really, I almost could hear Dresden's voice.
Yeah. So she's calling because apparently there is a case she wants him to go take a look at, and she needs him right now. So typical Harry, you get it right in the beginning of the book, and you get a sense of what all of these book series are going to be like. Every single one of these. He already has committed. He's got an appointment in less than an hour. Another woman coming over, but Murphy called and she needs him right now. He's got to be there in the next 10 minutes. She's got a hot crime scene. She needs him to investigate it. She knows that he doesn't like anyone else to rummage through the scene so he can see it as close to as it's really exist without being tampered with, because it's better for him to get a sense of what's going on, whether it's magic related or not. So he's in a bind. He can't tell Murphy no, because he needs that consulting money, because that's really his bread and butter. Most of
Yep.
his bills get paid through working for the police department. So you discover that I think they label him as a psychic consultant. You find that out in chapter 2, but
Yeah.
he's a consultant for the police department. So you get that that's his job. That's his main bread and butter. So he's in a dilemma. He's got an
Yeah.
appointment, which he can't afford to lose that either, because he needs money from both of them. But yet he's got to respond to Murphy. So he's already thinking, how can I do this? So the wheels are turning, and he's trying to figure out how he can make this work.
And he's gonna go. Though he's a little mad about it, but he knows he can't really he can't just turn this away. He
Oh
really
no, not
can't.
at all. No. And I forget, he was actually telling her no. And there's a point. I like the way he labels himself as her library of the supernatural on legs. I like the way they said that. So he told her no initially. He says, I've sort of got an appointment. And she goes into, I got a pair of corpses with no leads and suspects and the killer walking around the loose. Your appointment can wait. So that's when he got mad. And he says his temper does flare occasionally. It can't actually. But I tell you what, I'll stroll over and take a look around. I'll be there and be back here in time for it. Have you had lunch yet? What? No, I said. Don't. There was a pause. And when she spoke again, there was sort of a greenish tone into her words. It's bad. How bad are we talking, Murph? And her voice softened, and that scared him more than any images of gore or violent death could have. Murphy was the original tough girl. She prided herself on never showing weakness. It's bad, Harry. Please don't take too long. Special Crimes is itching to get their fingers on this one, and I know you don't like people to touch the scene before you can look around. I'm on the way, I told her, already standing and putting on my jacket. So when she softened her tone, somehow in the way she said it's really bad, and it's don't eat lunch, that just the way she presented that to him scared him so much that he had literally kind of forgotten about his appointment with Monica already. He was gone. He was going to to help Murphy. Done.
Yep. Already pulling on his jacket, on his way.
Yeah, that's amazing. So obviously Murphy definitely has a sort of control over Harry.
Yeah.
When she puts on her charm, or however you want to describe it, her wares, she knows how to pull him in and get him where she needs him to help. And apparently, she must really rely on him and trust what he tells her, because she keeps calling him back and she's got him on retainer for the police department. So she's actually paying him. So she knows that ghosts and monsters and all this stuff are real and that magic is real. But I guess everybody else in the police department don't. I mean, they think she's a crackpot.
Yeah. I think her partner actually really looks down on Harry big time. Thinks he's just wasting taxpayer money.
Yeah, yeah, and they're going to get into that in chapter 2 as well, I believe. So he drops everything and he's on his way.
Not without leaving a little note for Miss Monica Ask Me No Questions. Because of course that's not her real name, and he doesn't have a last name, so he's just giving her random last names.
I know, I love it. But yeah, he's hoping, he wants her to wait because he's trying to keep both jobs. He needs that money, so he's trying to keep both of them. So he leaves her a little note scribbled on the door and says, "I'll be back in time."
And
But
he's run down the stairs, not taking the elevator, because it would be his luck. He would get in that elevator and it'd probably like shut down on him, making
yeah,
him late for everything.
I know. So he's on his way to meet Murphy. Your turn.
Chapter 2. Yeah, in chapter 2. He starts off describing her, describing Karen Murphy with her. She's like the complete opposite of him, because she's short and stocky. She's got the Shirley Temple hair. She wears makeup, but not too much makeup. It's like just enough to where you can't really even tell she's wearing makeup.
And according to him, she doesn't really need it.
Yeah, because he finds her attractive. She's got
Oh, apparently.
muscular, well-shaped legs like a gymnast.
Must have.
Must
Remember,
have,
he's never
yeah.
seen them because she doesn't wear dresses. She only wears pants.
Yeah,
So
to kind of, because
what does
she's
that
that
tell you?
tough girl.
See,
Like he,
that again, that brings everything into, he doesn't just think of her as a partner in what they're doing all the time. He's thinking about other stuff as well.
like if she would let him, he'd probably like flirt with her hardcore.
Oh, without a doubt. Oh, keep going. You take this one.
Um and you could tell she's worried about him too. Like because she's like, "Don't you have any other jackets, Dresden?" Because he's probably not he's not the sharpest dresser. He can't really afford to dress, that fancy. So and
Yeah,
you and
he's
you
very practical. Yeah.
yeah, and so you could see that she is worried about him because she's like, "Don't you have, like something warmer to put on? Take care of yourself." And she, um, it belongs on the set of El Dorado.
I know that I like that part. Yeah, she really cut him down with that one. He's like, "Hey, what's wrong with this jacket?"
And she doesn't look at his face because you're not supposed to look at a wizard's eyes, but she's braver than most people because she does glance at his eyes for half a second. Um, so I find that, really funny, like how people like she would know obviously because she knows about the supernatural world. But he talks about people being wise not to look him in the eyes. Like it was more than most people did. It wasn't really dangerous unless you did it for several seconds. But I was used to anyone who knew I was a wizard making it a point not to glance at my face. So I guess but why would they not look at his face, and not look at his eyes? Especially people who don't believe that he's a wizard. Um, what would be so bad about looking him in the eyes? I mean,
Right.
Murphy knows not to because she believes he is a wizard. So it's just kind of funny that even though people don't, they make fun of him, they still won't look him in the eyes, you
That's
know?
exactly right.
So I find that interesting because I mean, why wouldn't you? If you don't believe that he's a wizard. But I guess, you know, maybe it's just some sort of like instinct.
Right.
I don't know. But I did like that. But my favorite part right here is their little game where they're both racing for the door.
Yeah, because he's a traditionalist.
Yeah, he's very much a open the door for the ladies kind of person, and as tough as she is cuz she's had to fight for her position. She doesn't appreciate it, but not she doesn't appreciate doors being open for her, but so they have this little game where they're racing for the door practically. And of course, because Harry is tall and his legs are longer, he gets there first and you can pretty much just imagine, I opened the door for her and gallantly gestured for her to go in.
Yeah.
So you can pretty much imagine that he's doing this and he's just got this, just sweeping the door open like, after you, madam.
And you know that's not going to make her happy.
But at the same time, because of the situation that she's having to deal with, um, she finds comfort in this particular little game of theirs. Even though it irritates her.
That's
Sorry.
me. No,
Uh,
that's me.
oh.
My bad.
um, and even though it irritates her, in this particular moment, it says she took an odd sort of comfort in our ritual, annoying as she usually found it. So he's like, how bad is what's up on the seventh floor? How bad is the situation that even in this particular moment, when it would usually annoy her, she finds comfort in this.
Yeah.
But I really love that little game they play because they play that game pretty often. I wonder how often she actually wins. It must not be that often because he's so much taller than she is. And you could tell they know each other so well because in the elevator ride, which it must be an old elevator because technology, it fritzes out on them. So they're riding an elevator up to the seventh floor. Um, and you see right here, like you could tell they really they're very close because he has a good sense of her. And he has this grasp on her mood. So it's natural for them to be quiet around each other and not be awkward.
Yeah, that's how you get a sense of how close they are and how well they know each other. That's right, because they can, without saying a word, they're actually communicating volumes, and you can only do that with someone that you know really well. So again, that connection is just obvious. The
Yep.
the way he sets all this up, that's why I love his writing. You get all of that in just a few lines. I mean, we're only on chapter 2, and you already know these two people have a long lasting relationship. They know each other really well. They're a little bit playful with each other, but yet when they get down to business, they anger each other a great deal and very easily. All that stuff wrapped together, that's marks of how close they are, because only someone that you're really close to you can have all that with.
Mhm.
You know what I mean?
And I'm kind of, I wonder how they met. You know, that would be interested at some point. I don't know if that's in the later books.
It is
Because
covered in the later books. It is.
I've only read up to book 2, but I'm interested to see like how they actually met and how that first conversation went down.
I'm not giving any spoilers away, but they cover all that in the later books, because I've watched a lot of podcasts where Jim Butcher's talked about the series and how he's developed it and where they're at through today. So you do find out how they met and all that kind of stuff later on, from what I can gather. And there's this goes. We're only tipping the iceberg. I mean, this really goes haywire later on. I mean, it gets really good.
And then they get to the 7th floor and he can already smell the blood. And I like that he's definitely not immune to it because he gets queasy. But he tries to like be manly and he swallows manfully and he follows Murphy out of the elevator past the cops, and they don't even freaking stop to like look at his ID. He just goes, so they know him. Um
Yeah, yeah, they already all know him. They don't stop and check his credentials or any of that stuff. They just let him in.
but he's
And
like, but
and then they
still, it's
snicker at him too,
unprofessional.
don't they? Don't they snicker at him as well?
Yeah, they do.
Yeah,
You know, everyone in that on that force except for Murphy, they all pretty much
yeah.
look down on him. And they go into the room and it's bad. So bad.
Well, and the thing you get out of that part where they say he kind of mans up to it, he's trying to. I think he's trying to put up a face for Murphy, because she's
Ye-
used to it. She's a cop. She's accustomed to all of that stuff. In the wizarding world, he's probably not really accustomed to all of that, because it's from a magic perspective. He's not used to bloodshed and things like that in his day to day stuff. So even though he may have been doing some of this stuff with Murphy for a while, that's not his core job. So he doesn't see that type of bloodshed on a regular basis, whereas
Yeah.
she's accustomed to it.
Yeah. And
So
he's just trying to be manly. It's like
yeah,
I'm tough too.
yeah, I got this. You can handle this. I got this. I can handle this. This is nothing. Yeah,
And
right.
so they get into the hotel room and they're walking around and he observes everything. He's looking at everything like a detective,
Hmm.
looking at every piece, holding up the underwear and you know, touching the stereo system.
Only with a pencil. He didn't actually touch it.
Yeah, with the yeah, with a pencil.
Yeah, yeah. He discovered the pair of panties under the sofa or under the couch or whatever it was, he examined them, and they were kind of like torn off, ripped off. And the first thing comes to his mind is, kind of
Ooh,
kinky.
kinky.
And then he goes over to the stereo. He presses the on button to see what was in the player, and he describes how it's good high tech equipment, although it's kind of low budget equipment, but it was still pretty, fairly good equipment. So he presses the play button to see what was playing, and there's some kind of love music or some
It's
kind of soft slow
yeah,
music or whatever.
mood music.
Yeah, and
So you
that's when
already know what's going down.
and that's when Murphy's partner gets introduced, and he comes into the scene.
And he's like, the love suite.
Exactly.
And then, of course, he's like, what do you think, Mr. Man? And you pretty much imagine Harry being like, hello, Detective Carmichael. Or probably more along the lines of, hello, Detective Carmichael.
Yeah, because you could just that brief introduction, you can tell there ain't no love lost between these two jacks.
Yep. Resident skeptic, and Murphy's partner. Were you saving the panties to take home yourself, or did you just overlook them? He's just like throwing shots at Detective Carmichael.
Well, yeah, because I mean they've already been through the apartment and they didn't discover that. They would already been through that part of the room.
And he describes Detective Carmichael, and after the description, he's like, even though because you could tell the way he describes this detective, this guy is very sloppy looking, but he's got a very sharp intellect. He is a sharp cop and absolutely ruthless at tracking down killers.
So
So I mean, he respects him on some level.
apparently he does. He at least respects his skills as a police officer and a detective.
Yeah, he must respect him on some level.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, he obviously does. Otherwise, they wouldn't have described it that way.
And like the not bad Sherlock, but that's just foreplay. And he's like, I'll have a bucket waiting for you. And at that moment, Harry's like, oh, great. What am I going to walk into now? Because he's, he's terrified. He walks right into the bedroom and he regrets it because it's a horror scene. You
Yeah.
know? And I love how as he's viewing the scene, he's trying really hard not to scream. He has to there's like this, he shuts this door in his mind because, and that's what I love about him. Like, he's a hero. He's supposed to be like the hero of the story. But seeing something like this and the way they were so brutally murdered, he's queasy and he wants to scream and he wants to throw up, but he holds back as long as he can.
Yeah. He does. He definitely does.
And he puts on, I mean, he puts on that brave front for as long as he can before he has to leave the room and like hurl into the bucket that Carmichael left for him.
I know it's funny because you get at that point you get the sense that while Harry seems pretty well able to handle himself and kind of not cocky but more brooding, like you said, because he's like we mentioned earlier, he seems to have a pretty weak stomach when it comes to stuff like that.
Yeah, he struggles. It makes him feel more relatable, I think. That he's not, immune, that he's not so jaded and so immune that he can't still be affected by this kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm. That's exactly right.
I like this particular line where it says, "But if I didn't get out of that room in a hurry, I was going to start crying like a little girl." I just thought that was funny.
It is because he at least he no it seems he seems to know what his weaknesses are and he tries to deal with them the best way he can.
And of course, he observes the crime scene, the couple, that died in the middle of sex. Um let's see, what was it? It was their hearts, their chest cavities were completely busted open.
Yeah, their hearts basically exploded out of their chest. Yeah,
And yeah, and
yeah,
they make a little joke. Well, he makes a little joke. And she's Murphy's like, "Well, are we dealing with magic here or aren't we?" And then he's like, "Either that or it was really incredible sex," I told her. And then Carmichael snorts. And then at the second he laughs, he's like, "Well, that's it. That door is open. He has to run out of the room and he's got to throw up.
yep, that's it.
'Cause he can't handle it anymore."
Nope, he held out as long as he could.
I mean, he hates seeing this kind of stuff because he did not want to be in there anymore. He didn't like seeing two dead people whose hearts had literally exploded out of their chests. And it's obvious it was done with magic. And I kind of feel like he takes, he's saddened by it, maybe he takes a little bit of offense to it. Because he's like, they had used magic to wreak harm on another, violating the first law.
Yeah, which kind of introduces you begin to realize apparently there is some type of governing body that um, oversees the use of magic in the world.
The White Council.
So you get introduced to that at this point.
And he goes into it a little bit about what they do. Um no, well, not really.
Not
I
yet.
thought they did. Not yet. He just mentions, first law, the White Council, but it's obvious that they must be the law for the magical world.
Mm-hmm.
Um and he's like, it was worse than murder. It was twisted, wretched perversion, as though someone had bludgeoned another person to death with a Botticelli, turning something of beauty into an act of utter destruction. So he loves him. He definitely loves his magic. He loves magic because he thinks of it as art.
Yeah, and well,
Magic is an
it
art.
is art, and they've kind of taken that art form and used it in a vile way to interfere with these two people who were, apparently, very intimate
Hmm.
and really destroyed and murdered these two people at the height of what should have been a beautiful moment. I mean that has to come from someone who truly hated them. At
Yeah.
least that's my take on it so far. Before we get further in the story, that would be my assumption at this point in the story is whoever did this to these two had to have absolutely hated them.
Yeah. And he actually gets into that. Um so he's yeah, a little further down. He thinks it's a woman that might have done it.
Jealous girlfriend or wife or ex-girlfriend or ex-wife or something because he doesn't really know about the two yet, so they haven't really investigated that much of it.
Mm-mm. Yeah, he explains to Murphy and Carmichael that it was definitely magic.
Well, the exploding hearts out of their chest and no signs of any weapons. It's obvious, to him anyway. It's magic. To the police department, it's unexplainable because there's no weapons. There's no evidence of a weapon being used. They don't have anything like that. It's just bursting out of the chest. So Harry knows that could have only been done by some kind of really heavy, possibly very deep, dark magic. So there's apparently a lot of hatred involved because all of the normal clues that would get left behind in the physical world won't apply here because of the way they were killed.
Yep.
So it's obviously someone that really wants to get away with it and think these two people deserved it. So that does say a lot.
And he
And you
let's
see
see.
throughout the whole conversation, Carmichael's like, "We're wasting our time. This is baloney. All that kind of stuff. I'm using some different words, but Carmichael just, I can't believe we're paying for this jerk. That
Yeah,
kind of
he's not.
stuff. He's not very um what's the word I'm looking for? He's not very friendly, but friendly
Yeah,
isn't the word I was. That's not the right word that fits here.
he's not very. I don't know, accommodating, or he's being obstinate.
Yeah, he's not very complimentary of Harry in any way, shape, or form. Where Harry respects him as a police officer for what he does every day, and Harry actually admits, which also shows you Harry's truthfulness. The guy
Mm-hmm.
is good at what he does. This guy has absolutely no respect, absolutely no thought or anything for Harry's world and what it is and how good Harry is at what he does. That
Yeah, he.
that so that kind of shows you that, and Harry knows this because he's going through that conversation with the guy right now. So there's no mutual respect. It's only Harry that has respect for him. Carmichael has no respect for Harry and wishes he was gone.
Yep. And Harry's like, the killer knew the victims, and I'm thinking it was a woman. And Carmichael snorts. Is like, I don't believe we got to sit here and listen to this. 9 times out of 10, the killer knows the victim, and he's just, saying basically, oh, you're not saying anything we don't already know. And Murphy's just like, shut up. And she's genuinely interested in what Harry has to say.
Yeah, because somehow, and I'm sure we'll find that out in later books, she knows Harry's knows and the sense that he has for all of this and how it's true. Apparently, he's proven it to her at some point. So she definitely wants to hear what Harry's got to say.
Mm-hmm. And then she challenges him. You keep saying she. Why the hell do you think that? Because like, oh, it could very well have been a man. And he's like, because you don't do something this bad without a whole lot of hate, and women are better at hating than men. But Murphy's like, but a man could have done it. He's like, well, and I don't know. I mean, I kind of agree with Murphy. A man could have done it. Of course, I don't really. I read this book like a while back, so I don't really remember exactly who it was that did it. Um, that's a little fuzzy. But
Yeah.
he's like, well, women are better at hating than men are. And he's like, hell, witches are just plain meaner than wizards. Of course, I can kind of see. I mean, it was obvious that the woman was a hooker of some sort. A professional, and it could very well have been the wife of the dude or something. I don't really
Yeah.
remember.
Well, yeah. They get into in a couple of more paragraphs here that it is actually a hooker and she works for the Velvet Room. and immediately Harry knows who runs the Velvet Room. It's a vampire, and
A vampire.
that's where Bianca gets introduced into the story. And even Harry, now this can tell you know just from what you've read so far in the first couple of chapters of this book, Harry knows Bianca's not one to be messed with, you know, because she is one of the baddest of the bad.
Oh, yes. She has considerable influence in the Never Never, which is the supernatural world. And
Yeah,
even Murphy knows who Bianca is, of
yeah.
course.
And apparently, you know, the way Harry labels her, she's got power with a capital P. And
Mhm.
he says, I tried to explain the never never to Murphy before. She didn't really comprehend it, but she understood that Bianca was a badass vampiress who sometimes squabbled for territory. We both knew that if one of Bianca's girls was involved, the vampiress must have been involved somehow too. So Murphy's immediately asking Harry, "You think it's one of Bianca's fight for territory? You know, do you think that's what it is?"
But he's like, no, it he doesn't think that Bianca is involved because yeah, because he's like, unless she's having it with a human sorcerer, a vampire, or even a vamp sorcerer couldn't have pulled off something like this out of the Never Never. And he's like, could she be at odds with a human sorcerer? Possible, but it doesn't sound like her. She isn't that stupid. See, the White Council made sure vampires who trifled with mortal practitioners never lived to brag about it. So you get from right here that the White Council is extremely powerful and not just going to let things get crazy.
Well, I mean, they're the law. They're the governing body over all the supernatural stuff in the magic world. So they pretty much set that in stone. Oh, excuse me. They pretty much set that in stone with that statement.
Yeah. And so it's not so this attack wasn't directed specifically at Bianca's girl. It's obvious that this attack is going after the guy the guy mostly. And maybe the hooker just got caught in the crossfire kind of.
Yeah, well, that's the sense that you get so far. So that's when Harry starts to inquire about who the guy was, and when Murphy says it's Tommy Tom, you know, Harry's like, who the heck is that supposed to be? Like, you know, that's supposed to when she's the way she said it, it's supposed to be that's it. You know, it's Tommy
Yeah.
Tom. So
Yeah.
and Harry's like, I don't know who that is. And when
And
he,
then yeah, she's like Johnny Marsone's bodyguard. And he knows who that is.
yes, that's I guess that's like a in their city, it's like a modern day oh, what's his name? I'm drawing a blank. Brain fart. Um,
Kind of like the Godfather, right? Like the mafia or the
yeah, I
mob.
mean that's who they refer to in the book, like the Godfather. But I'm thinking of the one from the 40s or the 50s and six, no, the 60s. No, there was the 50s, 40s and 50s. Al Capone. That's who I was thinking of. Al Capone. It's like a
Okay, yeah.
modern day Al Capone.
Yeah.
The man, he's made. Don't touch him. That type of thing. Gentleman.
Gentleman.
Uh huh. So we said it at the same time. That's funny.
Gentleman Johnny Marcone.
Yeah, so that gives him an air of significance. Oh, no, not significance. Not
Uh,
significance. Sophistication.
yeah. Like he's like the leader of the underworld. He tolerates no excesses in his organization, and he didn't like freelancers operating in his city.
That's right.
Muggers, bank robbers, and drug dealers who were not a part of his organization somehow always seemed to get ratted out and turned in, or else simply went missing and weren't heard from again. So it's kind of like organized chaos, you know? The cops pretty much just deal with it because they were almost like, because he mentions it right here, like they're almost reluctant to chase him because he's better than complete anarchy in the underworld. Like Marsone's in charge, and the cops are probably like half-heartedly looking for him because if he wasn't the leader, then the entire underworld would be in just chaos.
Yep. Yeah. So the next few paragraphs, they're discussing the just the general mob scene, I guess.
Yeah. And they're gonna explore a few leads, and Harry is watching her, and he knows she's tired. He sees that she's tired, and of course he's gonna tell her because he's truthful, you know. And she just,
And he straight up tells her too.
yeah, he's like, I told her so.
Yeah, he's just straight up. You tired? You look like crap. That type of thing. You could just
Yeah,
you could. They don't articulate it that way, but I mean that's basically what he did. Because she
yeah.
looked tired, so I just told her so.
And she's tired of being looked at like some sort of nutcase. Even her own partner thinks she's a nutcase, or that she's gone over the edge. And she's just tired of dealing with it all.
And then
Because
they
she
go
feels
back. Oh, go ahead.
she feels like the world is falling apart.
Yeah, and like she can't keep up with it and she can't control it. It's going in different directions and she doesn't have a grip on it. And she's afraid everyone. Well, she knows everyone thinks that she's a nutcase, and she's trying to prove that she isn't, but she doesn't really know how. That's why she gets
Yeah.
Harry to help her so much, is because she's hoping to find that one thing. I think at some point that's going to make it all make sense to everyone else, and finally prove she is a cop. She's a better cop than any of them, and she isn't in that case, and they should recognize her for that.
Yep. And
But
then they wouldn't question her trust in Harry.
right, and I like the way they go back to the way Harry feels about her, with the way she smiles and the curving of her lips that are vibrantly feminine expression, making her look entirely too pretty to be such a hard ass.
Yeah.
He's interested in her well beyond their working relationship, because
Mhm.
you don't think about things like that when you look at someone unless you have more than just normal feelings for someone. So
Yeah.
here's Jim Butcher again, throwing that little zinger in there, like something's gonna end up happening at some point in this series with them two.
Yep.
Right from the
I mean,
beginning. We're only in chapter 2.
and I wish everyone thought like you do. Because right there, he's like, I wish everyone thought like you do, it's because she trusts him so much, and that he that I think that's why he cares about her so much, is because how much trust that she believes him. She's one of the only people that really believes him.
Yeah.
And they share a joke and they laugh. And then and then she goes back to calling him, out on his bullshit, cuz she's like, you what you said about being able to figure out how the killer did this, about how you're not sure you can do it, it's bullshit. You know how to figure out what happened. And she can tell he's holding back.
Yeah,
She
but
knows
but
his game by now.
but it's not really a game, because he can't tell her why he's holding back. And he can't explain to her why he can't really go and just experiment with this, because it's the amount of trouble that he'll get into with the council. and it's because of his history, which they don't go into yet. So
No.
it's a delicate game he's playing. She knows him well enough to know that he's lying, but he can't tell her why he's lying.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
so he's caught between a rock and a hard place.
And the thing is, he wants to tell her the truth. You know he does because he says, I'm just not much of a liar."
No, exactly.
But he can't because he just can't. It's too dangerous.
Well, he tells her
But
that. He says, I can't try figuring this spell out. I can't go putting together these things I need to do it. You just don't understand. And I think that because he doesn't tell her, she's feeling like he feels like he can't trust her. But it's not that he can't trust her. He actually just can't say anything. I think it's because of probably feels it's the danger it may put her in, or he might get into some trouble. You get that sense of it, and I'm sure we'll find out later what it really is. But well, in fact, I know we will. But
yeah,
this
yeah,
early
we'll find
on,
out later.
it's one of the two, and but they don't tell you. You're kind of left hanging there, but you know there's something.
But she pulls him in anyway. She pulls him in. She glares at him and she glares at him without looking at his eyes. She's like, I hadn't ever met anyone else who could pull that one off. And then she just tears into him.
Well, she basically kind of gives him an ultimatum at that point. He really needs this gig, and she basically kind of lays it on the line. You kind of and I think she's doing it because she feels betrayed, because she feels like he doesn't trust her. So she
Yeah.
says, well, look, then, if that's how it's going to be, she doesn't say it, but you just can imagine that. If that's how it's going to be, you either do it or I'll pull your name out the Rolodex. We're done. Nothing I can do.
And she knows that he needs the money. And he knows that they
He's
pay for his most of his bills.
Yeah, he's got no choice. So he whether it's going to get him in any kind of trouble or not, he just got sucked into trying.
And then he's like, well, I wasn't, it's not like I'm actually going to be doing any black magic. There was a difference. And he's just hoping the White Council will understand that difference. And that's when she pulls the damsel in distress card.
Yep.
That is his weakness, and like that noir detective kind of thing, how they can't resist a damsel in distress.
Never will.
I
And
kind of
never.
have a feeling that that box of books that's in his office. I kind of feel like it might be full of detective novels.
If you'd have said romance, this podcast was over right now.
No,
They're
I
not
was gonna.
romance books. They can't be.
No, I have a feeling they'd be more along the lines of detective novels because he hardcore pulls off that noir detective thing,
Yeah.
you know, and he just can't resist that damsel in distress. Classic lady in distress. And she knew exactly how to get at him with that. He's just like, fine. And so he gives in. He gives in and says, all right. Just have to make sure the White Council doesn't find out.
Yeah, that's it.
And then he sees that he's almost late for his appointment for Miss Monica missing husband person. And of course, he runs out.
Yep, he's on his way back to his I guess it's an
His
apartment or his business, but he actually lives there. It's both his office and where he lives. I mean, he lives
well,
at work.
yeah. Well, I mean, he has an apartment, if I recall.
And that's where you get the idea that he's kind of out of shape.
Yeah, because he flies down the stairs.
Well, and he's running down the street and all that stuff. And it says, blame it on being out of shape from an inactive winter season, but I was breathing hard. It occupied enough of my attention, breathing and all that, that he didn't see the dark blue Cadillac until it pulled up on the side of him. And that's
Yep.
where we get led off into chapter 3. Because a couple of guys step out.
And of course, we get introduced to Gentleman Johnny Marsone.
Yep. And that's where chapter 3 takes off.
And he was, at this point, he thinks he's going to be completely late to his appointment. And this guy is scary. Johnny Marsone is not somebody you mess with.
No, he even scares Harry, which is kind of unusual. You know, they do the whole introduction thing, and you know, basically, he kind of you get the sense that, and Harry's thinking, well, this guy's tracking me down. You know, he's kind of on the right lead already. You know, you get that from the immediately. Well, now, this guy's already got Harry, and he's on the scene and pulled Harry over, got him in the car and all that stuff. Obviously, he's involved based on what he just learned from Murphy and them. So he's trying to figure out, you know, what's the deal. And apparently, he just kind of wants Harry to lay low.
Yeah, he wants to pay Harry not to look into the investigation.
And offers him even double his normal fee.
And
I think I jumped way ahead on you too. No, not really. That's
no,
about
not,
it.
No, not that far. No. And here is where Johnny Marsone looks Harry straight in the eyes.
Doesn't blink, doesn't waver, none of that. I know.
Like, this guy has serious balls because he knows Harry's a wizard, and he looks him straight in the eyes. And this guy is hardcore, you know. He is a soldier, a warrior, you know, fatherly. I mean, he says he's behind that relaxed smile and fatherly manner. He's a soldier. He's a warrior.
Yeah.
He's dedicated to his people. So this guy, he's furious. He's furious over his henchman's death. So he wants to deal with it himself. And what Harry notices is that there's a small place inside Marsone's soul that he can't see. So Marsone went into this knowing Harry, you know, who Harry is, and he was mentally prepared. Definitely mentally prepared, because he did not let Harry see that one small part of him.
That's exactly right.
And that shows how strong Marsone is.
Well, I'm not sure if that shows how strong he is, or if it proves he may be another wizard or something that we haven't been introduced to yet. That's my suspicion. I don't remember for sure if it is or isn't, because it's been several years since I've read this book.
I just believe he's a particularly tough individual. But I can see where, you know, you would think that, because, you know, I mean, and I don't know for sure. He might be something else, you know. I mean, he is the leader of the underworld. I wouldn't be surprised if he was, you know, some other creature.
Yeah.
And Harry feels very vulnerable because of this. Because this guy looks into Harry's soul as well. Because when you look into when you look into a wizard's eyes, it's like a mutual thing. You see each other's souls. And this guy didn't even blink. He had assessed Harry's soul, and you know, that was it. And Harry's like, I got the uncomfortable impression that he duped me, that he found out more about me than I had about him. I'd be mad too if I was him, you know?
Yeah. Oh yeah,
And
I'd be upset too.
he admits to being scared of him. Like Harry is not afraid to admit when he is queasy, when he is afraid. He is just a very honest character.
He is.
Very
He
honest.
is. Oh, probably too honest to be honest. To be honest with you. Ha 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 ha
Ha
ha.
ha 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 ha. Yeah, because it definitely, that honesty is going to put him in situations that I'm surprised he gets through.
I know.
He had a he thinks Marcone has a tiger's soul. But at the same time, Marcone, after assessing Harry's soul, realizes there's no way he's gonna, there's no way he's gonna be able to pay Harry off. There's just no way.
Well, yeah, because he realizes Harry's honesty. I mean, he can't fight that, and I think it kind of irritates him.
Yeah.
Methinks it kind of irritates him.
Yeah, because he's used to wheeling and dealing. And here he comes up against this wizard, and this is a very honest he's very just a very honest person. Very noble. Marcone that is not gonna be able to, bend him to his will, and he's probably very used to getting his way.
Right.
And then of course Marcone threatens Harry. I love those little part. He's defending himself. He's like, "You don't want to make an enemy of me, Marcone. That wouldn't be smart. That wouldn't be smart at all."
Yeah, like he's trying to
Like he's
be
trying
all badass.
to, like he's trying to, he's definitely putting up a front.
Yeah, that's a big front.
And Marstone's like, "You should try to be more polite, Mr. Dresden. It's good for business." And he didn't have an answer to that at all. Because if he would have answered, he'd sound very scared or just stupidly macho. And he's definitely not macho.
Oh yeah, yeah. He's trying to be more macho than probably he really is. Well, he's not that macho. I mean, he
He's not.
he's just honest. He does what he has to do, and that's the extent of it. He's not this big time hero. He doesn't jump in there for recognition or anything like that.
And I really love this particular paragraph right here. He says, I stuck my hands in the pockets of my duster and shivered as the wind hit me. I was a wizard throwing around real magic, I reminded myself. I was not afraid of big men and big cars. I do not get rattled by corpses blasted from life by magic more intense than anything I could manage. Really? Honest. Like, who are you trying to convince here, Harry? I think you're just trying to convince yourself.
Yeah,
But
and
he is
that's a lot of times
definitely
that's what he's
afraid.
doing. He's trying to build up his own confidence, I guess. But that's how he gets through situations. That's his way of manning up.
Yep. And he man, he is definitely afraid of Marcone. So then he goes up to his appointment. At least he makes it on time. He makes it just in time, really.
Just barely.
In time to see Miss Monica, no last name, you know, leaving a note as if she's about to leave.
Hmm. And he kind of surprises her a little bit, doesn't he?
Yeah, he startles her a little. And she's definitely nervous when she meets him face to face. And he's just trying to put on his client face. He smiles.
Yep, he needs the business,
Yep.
but he's trying to give her the business.
Let's see. Yeah, he tries to be very careful not to startle her because he feels like one wrong word and this is going to be like out the door.
Yeah, so he's got to play it real delicate with
Real smooth.
with the level of her nervousness. And I love the way with the comments, the way he writes it. You can tell Harry's checking her out. I mean, come on. Harry seems to be he's observant. Let me just leave it at that.
He is very observant. Her makeup was tasteful and well applied.
Well, and the color combination of her outfit, she had to be really in shape to be able to pull that off. I love
Mhm.
that.
She was a good-looking woman.
Obviously.
Yeah, I mean he is a healthy he's a relatively healthy man. He's going to notice those kinds of things when he meets a woman. Um but he's definitely very very observant. But I do like that he doesn't just observe like just the body type, he observes the rest as well
Yeah.
to get an idea of the kind of person she might be. Wholesome and all American. And she explains that her husband's not mysteriously missing, he's just gone.
Which is weird.
Yep.
I guess because he just simply packed a bag and left. But it's kind of unlike him. It's not something he would normally do. So that's what's got her all nervous and afraid.
And he's wondering, well, why didn't you just go to the PI or the police? And she's like, well, and this is where we get to, you know, it's because her husband was into magic.
Yep, which is why she feels she needs to reach out to Harry. Because he would understand, or he may be able to help if Harry can find her husband. He might be able to speak to her husband from that viewpoint and maybe convince him to come back because it's magic related.
Yep. And it must be something really like serious magic, Like she says, not like those Dungeons and Dragons games. Hey now, the real thing. He bought some of those tarot, and the way she says it, he bought some of those tarot cards.
Yeah, not tarot, tarot.
Tarot. He's like amateur. But, you know, she suspects that her husband's disappearance has to do with magic and the serious variety. He had just lost his job. You trying to, you know, he's under a lot of pressure. So she's really hoping that Harry will help her out and bring her husband back from the brink.
Yeah.
And he's still like, but why? Why me? Why not the police? Like, come on, Harry. Don't just go with it. But she's like, he packed a bag, and she feels like the police will just cast her off as because oh look, another man who left his wife and kids. They won't really look for him. So, but she must be a little nervous about that. She must obviously be a little nervous that that is what actually happened because Harry suspects as well.
Right.
nervous that maybe hubby has run out on you after all. And once again, he's like, "Why come to me? Why not a PI? I know a reliable man if you need one." And of course, just to reiterate, it's about the magic.
Yeah, it's the magic. That's why I think you'll be the best choice. Oh
And of
yeah.
course, she must know something about wizards because she's even reluctant to give the name of her husband, you know.
Well, that's
So
but he
yes,
that Harry gets into it. That's the misnomer. That's yes, it's true. We can do a lot with the name and all that stuff, but I really need to know his name. I'm not that kind of wizard, so Harry has to go into this whole explanation to try to reel her in so he can get the actual name. Because without it, he can't possibly find the guy.
yep. And she, of course, she feels silly, about being concerned about that kind of thing. But he's patient because he needs the money. So he explains to her about magic and wizards, and that he's gonna take care of her and find her husband. So that's when she finally gives up the name. So he they talk about her husband a little bit, where he's working. They talk about the lake house. He could go to the lake house to investigate, and how her husband doesn't really have many friends.
Yeah, and what's that part? I remember when they mentioned the lake house, and it's kind of like, yeah, on a lake.
Yeah,
There was something
she's like,
about that. I was like, that's hilarious. The lake.
yeah. She's like, the lake house, we have a house down by, and she waves her hand, and he's like, the lake? Because she's
Click.
she's so nervous and it kind of, she's just so nervous, and then she's having trouble getting all the words out. So he's really trying hard to be very patient with her.
Yeah, he's really patient.
And she busts out, "I'm not worried about the money." And he's like, "Well then." And then she, he explains his rates, and she gives him the cash.
Boy, does he like that envelope.
Yep, because, and okay, and I want to make a note. I made a note right here. His rent, okay, must not be that high, because she gives him $500, and he says that would take care of last month's rent and a good bit of this month's too.
Yeah,
$500.
that's some cheap rent.
I'm like, seriously. And so that tells you right there that does, he does not get that much work, because if he can't even afford to pay that, and it's gotta be low rent, because $500 taking care of last month and this, some of this month, a good bit of this month. Okay.
Exactly.
That's not a whole lot of rent. So he's struggling here.
But yeah, but
I'm like,
yeah, but remember now, keep this in context because this was written back in 2000. Back in 2000, and I'm just being real. The apartments we're living in now is about $1,000 a month. Back then, this same apartment was around $350 a month.
jeez,
You're talking almost 20 years ago. This is 2018. That's 18 years ago. So
that's
18 years
true.
18 years ago, that was the price. So not as outstanding as it's outstanding for you today, but
Yeah, and you
back
see,
then you were only what 10?
yeah. Oh my god, it's hard. It's really hard to, man, you just read it and you place it in the here and now,
Yeah,
you
and
know,
it's not when you're
and
reading.
it
It's you gotta, and we didn't establish the timeline, so we probably should have, because I mean,
yeah,
at the time, this book takes place in 2000.
yeah. And you forget about that because
Yeah,
you're reading it and you're just placing it
you,
in now, like
you're putting it
nowadays.
in your current frame of reference in your current timeline, and it's not.
But really it's not. No, man, 18 freaking years ago. Whew. So it's just that just was outstanding to me. I'm like, geez, $500, and that's that would cover his all of his like two rents, two
Well met.
Yeah,
man. So I just thought that was funny, but yeah, I didn't think about that when this was written. It was like 2000, so and he tries not to fondle the envelope. It's like, yeah, this gonna work. And then she's very organized. This woman is very organized because she gives him 3 envelopes. Pretty much almost everything he would need to try to look for her husband.
yeah, she's just naturally organized. Yeah, because she had the envelope with the money, the envelope with the pictures, and I forgot what the third envelope was.
Scorpion, the dried up scorpion.
Yeah, which kind of creeps him out, doesn't it?
Yeah,
He
it
even
freaks him out.
yeah, he even imagines it moving it on his desk, and he takes it and tosses it in a drawer at some point because he
Mm.
he did some kind of vision or look to see if it was magical. He didn't sense any magic, so he wrote off the movement as his imagination. But he thought it was actually moving on his desk, so he takes it and shoves it in one of the drawers to get it out of the way.
And he assures her, he gives her a little timeline. He's going to go looking tomorrow afternoon or Saturday morning. And then she's like, "Okay, well, need to go. School's almost out." And then she's embarrassed because she revealed something about herself to him. And I'm like, you might want to. I know you're trusting this man to find your husband. You need to reveal some details,
Right.
but she's withholding. And he's like, "Thank you for your business. I'll be in touch soon." So he examines all the envelopes. Yeah, and that scorpion freaks him out. He shudders.
Yeah, and what was his reaction to the guy's picture? Remember, he got into that part of it. What was his reaction to the picture? Because I know they detailed that, and we're actually almost at the end of the fourth chapter already.
Oh yeah, the he was skewed in his handsomeness, a sharp contrast because he was kind of tan, someone who spends a lot of time in the sun. It was a sharp contrast against Monica's paleness.
Yeah, that's what it was.
Yep. And he knows that I mean, it's this guy must have gotten into something because scorpions were are symbolically powerful.
Yeah, yeah, it could have been a talisman like that. Could have been, you know, used for any number of things.
And he admits, that Victor Sells probably got involved in something real.
Something that he is unfamiliar with because of his inexperience, has no clue of how to deal with it, and probably got himself into trouble. So at this point, he's kind of convinced, yeah, I probably need to do something just from the standpoint that he wants to help this girl out and this guy because they're completely getting into something they have no clue of.
Yep. The art can do that to a person.
And that's pretty much it. That's when he takes and he shoves it into the drawer and says, "Never let it be known that Harry Dresden's afraid of a little creepy bug." But what does he do? Slide it into the drawer and shut it so that he doesn't have to look at it.
Yep. And he's like, so I have a problem with creepy, dead, poisonous things. So sue me.
I
He
have a
really.
problem with it too.
Well, he does he does describe like how inconvenient an accessory a scorpion would be.
Yeah,
Scratch the way it's made, the legs scratching against your chest
that's
and
nasty.
the
That's just
tail
creepy.
poking whoever goes to give its wearer a you're imagining it.
Give me the freaking creeps.
But yep, he shoves it into his drawer. And that's the end of chapter 4. I did not mean for that to rhyme at all.
Hey, just natural talent. You can't help it.
So yeah, a good start.
Yep, very, very interesting. I enjoyed the first 4 chapters. Like I said, I've read the book before, but I've got to reread it again to refresh myself so we can discuss it on the podcast. And the format's probably going to change a little bit. So, anyone that ends up watching or listening, really, because there's no video, and we have a totally unrelated image gallery spanning in the background. It's a bunch of DDO screenshots because Dana used to play DDO and I still play, and I wanted to have something on the screen other than just the
Yeah.
us talking and it'd be a blank screen. So I've got the video playing. It's just an image library looping through, but we'll fix all of that at some point, and we're hoping to have our web cameras up and running, but we have to get through the logistics of having both of them at the same time. That
Yeah.
didn't work very well tonight. The few resources we tried, I think we need to go back to what we originally had. And like I
Yeah.
mentioned, and you're just not going to be able to see me, but I've got to
Yeah.
put both our faces up on the video. So
Yeah. Well,
we'll test that
we'll
out. We
we'll
can test
figure
it
it
out a
out.
little bit tonight if you got time. Or we can do it tomorrow. It doesn't matter. We can do it at any point.
And we'll figure it out.
But that is the end of our first test podcast. What I'm probably going to do is upload this to YouTube, give Dana a chance to watch it as well, and we'll kind of play it back and forth. We may change the format a little bit. It may seem a little bit rusty, but we're kind of feeling our legs, getting our sea legs under us for this bookcast. But I think it
Well,
went okay.
yeah, and that's why we started with a book that we had already read before,
Right.
even though it was a long time since we've read this book.
And we will come
So,
up with an actual name at some point.
yeah, maybe.
Well, anyone that
So,
watches, we appreciate you listening. We enjoyed it. We actually love reading, like we both said. So
mhm.
look forward to more of these in the future. We may try to start a regular schedule. At this point, it's just kind of be as we can. Probably mostly going to be on a Saturday night, rather
Yeah,
late when we actually do it. And when we're a little bit more comfortable, when we've got a format more laid out, we'll actually do a live Twitch cast
yeah,
and go that route. But until then, we'll just post these, and who knows if we get everything magically worked out by next weekend, we may live cast. I don't know. It just depends. We're not doing anything. There's nothing set in stone at this point. We're just kind of playing it all by ear. So
and we're working out the kink. Just working out the kinks.
that's right. We kinky. We full of kinks. So
Don't say that. No,
so
no,
we
oh my
we
god,
we gotta work out our we
no.
gotta work out our kinky kinks.
We gotta no. Don't say that. No.
Hey, you
Yeah,
gotta
that
make
was
people laugh. You gotta make people laugh.
so. That was the first 4 chapters of Stormfront by Jim Butcher of a novel of the Dresden Files. We'll see next time where Harry's investigation takes him, because he's got to cover 2 cases now. So,
Yep. We thank everyone for listening in and stay tuned for more later.
bye.